Welcome to Clear Passage Ministries. I'm Althea Ledford, and I will be your teacher for the next hour. Clear Passage Ministries is designed to give you tools and techniques and usher you in a closer walk with God. Even if you've been a child of God for years, some of the information just puts another twist on it and gives you a fresh dive into some deeper water. I hope you enjoy the next hour, and I look forward to meeting you again. Thank you.
The title of the message today is Next Level Wisdom, Holding On to Your Blessings. Next Level Wisdom, Holding On to Your Blessings. I want to give you an example. Minister Bolden is talking about a power and authority, and he was going to talk about it. I don't want to mess up the message, but power and authority. And authority is power is a strong arm, movement, boom, just in power. Authority is having the right to, having the right to. So on power is like, I'll tell you the difference, a bank robbery. That minute that the bank robbers go in and show their guns or give them the note and say, fill up the bags with the money and don't press the button and everybody get on, you know how they do the whole thing. And then that's power. But they're acting outside of their authority. They don't have authority, so they're stealing it. So the enemy, steal, kill, and destroy. He's trying to overwhelm and usurp the power of God in every way possible. He's trying to come against God in every way possible. So the power and authority. So authority is Jesus is in authority. The Father is in authority, and sometimes people say, how do you understand the Trinity? Well, you're functioning in the Trinity all the time. You're functioning in multiple levels. You pray to God, and the Lord speaks through you. He steps into if you guys have ever been in situations where the Lord was speaking through you and stuff comes out your mouth that you did not plan to say, and you have to consciously close your lips up, so that, because sometimes the Spirit of the Lord, some people, and you've seen it, I've seen it, it's happened to me many times, where I have not intended to say something, but the Lord spoke through me before I had a chance to, my brain had a chance to grab my lips and say, don't say it. Not that it's okay, because the Lord don't care if I have any friends left after I finish talking. He wants to get his word out. He really don't care if you're the only one standing in the room after you finish saying whatever he wants to say through you. He will say it, and you will be standing there with the remains of whatever happened. And don't tell nobody that wasn't me, because they watch it come out your mouth. But he will speak through you, and it usually is a truth and something that you probably would not have said or wouldn't know to say. Because sometimes you've heard stuff talk about things that I could not possibly know, but God did, and he's in those places. So authority, the example, wisdom, gleaming. What is gleaming wisdom? Gleaming wisdom is where you can look at something and figure out how to be blessed in the midst of it. How do I gleaming wisdom is when I tell you guys that I don't want to get a whipping for somebody else, and I was serious about it. As a kid, I was not into pain, and I was like, I used to tell my mother, we could talk about this. We don't have to go to physical violence. And she was like, I was crazy, but I was, because I didn't need to get a whooping. But the point is, I would pay attention to what other people went through so that I didn't have to go through that. And in high school, I paid attention. Now, if you do this, and this, something will happen. And I'm like, I don't want that to happen. So what am I supposed to do for the other part? How do I get to the other side of this situation? So gleaming wisdom is paying attention. David was good on gleaming wisdom. David was an inquisitive kind of guy. He was definitely an entrepreneur. He was definitely witty. When I say quick-witted, he was definitely quick-witted. When you see him and all of he was quick-witted. He was blessed. Okay, here, let's look at David. He was quick-witted. he was blessed. And when I say quick-witted in conversation, he was blessed by the Lord. He had a relationship. He was also humble before God. You know, he had his moments, but he was humble before God. And he was willing. David's the one to dance out of his clothes. And David, you know, God loves a person who doesn't care what everybody else thinks, but only cares more about him than what everybody else thinks. Saul made an inappropriate offering and violated the whole process, sacred process of offering, because he didn't want to wait for Samuel, and he didn't want to wait for Samuel because what people were thinking. That's a politician. The politicians, and I am not against them at all, but when you can be bought or sold, and it's a hard one that can't be, because politicians mean the very nature means I have to get along with a lot of people to get my job, and people have to like me. I have to shake a lot of hands. I have to do whatever it is, you know, to maintain their power. It's people dependent. So politicians, the nature of what they do, and it takes a very strong politician to hold on to their ethics and morals while they're doing their job. It takes a strong one to do that, and there are some. We do have some, but we need more, because you can't. You're really not in power if somebody can wear you like a glove and manipulate you. Then you are not in power. The only person we want to wear us like a glove and manipulate us is the Lord, and He's not going to manipulate you. He will direct and guide you, but you give Him free access to you, and then He will direct you and tell you what to do. But from a political standpoint, politicians tend to be for sale. I don't mean every single one. I'm just saying they by nature tend to be able to do things that you would normally think a person shouldn't be able to agree to. That's how, that's for Democrats and Republicans, but you know, standing up with the Word of God. And it's not a side, it's an individual. It's not all this party or that party. It's the Lord's party. It's the individuals. So I think the children of God, from whichever side they come on, even if there's a side that we don't even know about yet, whichever side they come from, should be able to say, I'm on the Lord's side, and vote their conscience, vote to keep an America globally, and for that matter, to keep people towards the Word of God and leaning in towards the Word of God and using that as our guideline. So gleaming wisdom, I said all that to say, gleaming wisdom is where the centurion said, I'm a man of authority. See, he understood. And just understanding how it works helps you stay in it. So he said, I'm a man of authority. I tell people to go, and they go. I tell them to come, they come. They do what I tell them to do. So you don't have to come to my daughters, to my house. You don't have to come. See, this is power talking to power. Earthly authority talking to heavenly authority, but they understand each other. Just like if we understood inheritance, and we understood legacy, and we understood prices already paid for what we have, if we understood how much your right to vote costs, how much your literacy costs, if we understood that, like my son just said, there's a huge amount of states that women still are not equal. And I when I say that, I'm not saying it so that I'm not trying to say women and men are trying to be equal. I'm saying women don't have rights. They don't have rights. They were given them temporarily, and in the ERA and some things passed. So they still don't. Now, why does that matter? That matters when you get a job, when you have to raise your family, when you have to do some things. You don't get paid the same amount for the same or greater amount of work. That matters over time. That really does matter. So, and the fact that it's taken all this effort to get it done, that speaks to the country. It speaks to us as people that we don't acknowledge genders as being equal. If she's doing the work, she should get paid the same amount of money. Seems like a small thing until you are that parent that has to raise that family and you're making less money for the same work. Seems like a small thing, but it's not. So going back to gleaming wisdom, the centurion said, I'm a man of authority. and he said, you don't have to come to my house. You just speak the word. Because he was saying to Jesus, and Jesus knew. That was power talking to power. This guy gets it. He gets it. He got it. And now in all of Israel, Jerusalem, I think he said Jerusalem. He said, I haven't seen this kind of face. Like he was like, this guy gets it. Thank you. Your daughter's healed. And Jesus was having to operate on a level that they were able to understand. That woman that we talked about on Friday that pressed in and said, if I can just touch the hem of his garment. So first thing happened is she got serious. Another thing is she did the math. Before Jesus got there, she had to talk enough or understand enough about him in hearing talks about him to put that together to realize if I can just but touch the hem of his garment. She didn't get that from just seeing him the first time. Who Jesus was, his reputation preceded him. So it preceded him enough for her to get in position to get a blessing, because she's like, and that's what I'm saying. People that have smarts about this thing are going to figure it out faster. Some people are going to figure out how to get blessed faster. Now, we've had the Jewish culture right in front of us for years, for all of our lives, and we have not figured out. This is a group of people that have been disliked in many countries that they've been in, but yet they've still been able to thrive. The question would be, what are they doing? They're functioning out the first 5 books of the Bible, and they're able to thrive. Not that you like everybody. That's not the point. The point is, collectively, there's this thing called wisdom and legacy that's being passed down. They study the Word of God because this is our way to get out of Egypt and to keep getting out of Egypt, to keep not being taken captive again, to keep being able to function. It's the Word of God every single time, manifested in different kinds of ways that have continued to allow them to escape, to get past where they need to go. He's continued to do it, and as a people, we have to pay attention. Well, what are they doing? They're understanding industry. They're passing legacy. They're going to make sure that the children don't starve. Literacy is a must. The ignorance is when you say ignorance, when you say I'm going to perpetuate ignorance, you might as well just go into the closet and pull the chains out, because you're getting ready to re-enslave your children. When you say don't learn or don't get your education, and I mean education's fine. Getting a trade is one thing. I'm going to digress up to the side here. And there's a concept that we have that are called 3 E's. And this is how you have to, David did this. You have to function at 3 levels. You have to function as a elf. That's when you just can plug into anything and work. You know, if they're packing boxes, the Amazon kind of job, that's an elf. Next one is an engineer. Engineer means I'm a specialist. I'm a CPA. I'm a marketing expert. I am a social media expert. That's an engineer. That means you have a specialty. So people building teams are going to say, oh, let's get this one. And they pull you into different projects. It's project based, but you're an expert at something. So ELF is an Amazon worker. And then expert engineer is an expert. That means you can do something really, really well. Plumbing is an engineering type of thing. When I say engineering, I'm using that word demonstrating. This is what you have to teach your children. Engineering, that means I'm an electrician, I'm a plumber, I can do contracting, I can do, I can do gardening, meaning I know how to engineer that, landscaping. I can do something at an expert level that I can be pulled in to do. Third thing is entrepreneur. I mean, you have to have your own show. You're running the whole thing. That's your visionary level. You have to function minimally at those 3 levels all the time, and you will always make money because people will always know to call you and ask you. So when David was doing his job as being the sheep keeper, he brought somebody in to watch that. It was like this. I got to go do, I'm just making up how he probably was talking to his assistant. I'm going to leave you in charge of these sheep. And David was running his little sheep like he had big business, and the brother was like those few sheep that you have to watch. Why aren't you watching them? And David was thinking big. He had left somebody in charge of them few sheep. He said, "Look, watch these sheep. I got to go to make a run for my dad. And then he had a driver. Somebody took him to the place. So Jesse wasn't poor, but David was doing some stuff. So David's like, here, watch these sheep. I'm gonna come back, and then I got to do this. And he went over to his dad. His dad said, here, David, take this cheese and bread over to your brothers and bring me back a report. His dad knew David could get the information because David was an entrepreneur. So David said, sure, Dad. So David's not one of the big guys. He didn't go to fight. So David was moving around, hustling, handling his business. So he said, sure. So David gets in with the driver, which is probably a donkey or something, gets in with the driver, and he takes him there. He didn't drive himself. He took him there. And then he gets there, and there's something going on. And David gets in there and starts talking about with the guys what all he would do to Goliath, and how, David whatever he did, he convinced them, we got to go look at this guy, tell Saul about David. And then his brother gets embarrassed, like, why are you here? Why are you over here doing this? You over here showing off and talking to these people. You don't even know these people. Why aren't you back there watching a few sheep that we gave you, put you in charge of outside of the house? Tells you something about David. And you showing off again. What are you doing? And so David's like, what did I do? I just came. You blaming me for this. I just came to bring you, and I hear what's going on. So David was inquisitive. He leaped on opportunity. That's a good trait to have, to keep your ears open. This is my point, was gleaming wisdom. Keep your ear open. God will put you in positions where he'll put you somewhere where they'll say, they're hiring over here, or they're doing that over there, and all you have to do is do this, this, and this. Now, that person that's got an ear open, and teaching your children to have an ear open to listen for opportunities, they will never be without work. They may, maybe a little dip here and there, but they'll be like, I got 3 jobs. I got 4 jobs. How many jobs you got? Like that. They will always be working. That is a part of wisdom, and that's a part of whatever your hands find to do it. So gleaming wisdom, that's it. How the blessings transfer. They transfer by somebody imitating your behavior. Question: can your children imitate your behavior? If they imitate your behavior, where will they be? That's your example. Your biggest legacy you leave is what your kids watch you do. What they watch you do is the legacy. You could tell them all day, but my daughter had and I didn't know. I felt bad at first. I didn't realize it, but I had I worked at home for a long time when they were little, because it's babysitter costs. I have to get another job. There's 2 jobs, one to pay the babysitter, and when I could work from home, and that would take care of that problem. And my daughter started playing business instead of playing house. She started playing business, and she had a little red plastic phone, and she was talking on the phone, holding it on her shoulder, and she's like 4, 5, little, short, really little, and she's got this phone on her ear, talking on the phone. Yeah, okay. And then she takes her little hand and snaps her finger and says, Mom, hand me a pencil. And she told me to hand her a pencil so she could take notes to this person that's on this plastic phone. So I gave her a pencil, and I was just done. I was like, is there somebody on the phone in out of me? And she's talking, and she snaps me, Mom, hand me a pencil. And then she starts writing down whatever note she's taking. And this is, my God, I was horrified that I had done this. But later it proved to be beneficial. She played with dolls, but she was playing business. And so, because that's what she saw. And we were always working, always in an office. I was talking to my son yesterday. We had a business where we were doing vending machines, and we had like 40 vending machines. These are like candy vending machines that would go everywhere. And we had so many vending machines. We'd go to the wholesale place and buy a trunk full of M&Ms, M&M with nuts, Skittles, M&M, plain M&Ms, to the point I would have all the kids in the back of the car handing me the bags of candy and taking the quarters and stuff and going in and changing the machines. My kids to this day can't stand M&Ms. They have eaten so many M&Ms. They are sick of M&Ms. They won't even want to look at M&M because they have had so much candy there, because it was in the back of the car. It would be bags of M&Ms, the big giant Costco bags of M&Ms. And but the point is, they learned business. They learned that, we get the quarters, and then we had to take all the bags of quarters over to the bank and put them through the machine, and then they would put it into whatever. And our people just got sick of me because I had to go take quarters to the grocery store and pay for my groceries with quarters. But it was making money while I was not awake. That thing was making money, and they learned the concept of being an entrepreneur by watching. Juanita Bynum yesterday was talking about, okay, let me tell the story right now, and this is wonderful. She was talking about they had their father or their mother had their father had a restaurant. Their aunt had a restaurant, and the whole family was running the restaurant. And they would get out of school, and do their homework in the car. And then about 5 or 6, and this is exactly how these things happen. She would take orders on a box. She had to stand up on the box to reach the counter to take orders from people on how to on this little barbecue stand. So she knew how to do. Do you want potato salad? Do you want French fries? That kind of thing. So they knew what the menu was. So they would do their homework, and when they get off work, they would do their homework in the car, and then they would go inside and serve and work till late at night, till whatever time, and through the rush hour of the business. So she knew business, and she said they had 2 phones in their house. Her father did repaired Oriental rugs. We talk about engineer. He was a specialist, because an Oriental rug is a very high price item, and you have to prepare it just like a Persian rug. You have to repair it a certain way to put it back, restore it in its original condition. So he knew how to do that. That was what he did as his job. His second job was he was a carpet cleaner. So if he knew how to repair rugs, he obviously would know how to clean them. So he would clean rugs, and that was his janitorial business. That was that particular business. This is called blessing. It looks a lot like hard work. Kind of funny, but it does. So it was an opportunity, being prepared to receive an opportunity and being in it, to stand in there and do the opportunity. So they had so she would do that. And she said they had 2 phones in her house, one phone, and she said since she was little, they learned how to answer that other phone, business phone, like a business. Welcome to Bynum something carpet, how can I help you? And then they would take a message, and people would be calling her father to go out and pay him big money to have him repair their carpets or do cleaning or whatever. So she knew business. Why do I say that? Because we transfer over into opportunity. When you start seeing business and looking at business, you start thinking, oh, I could do this, I could pick that, I could do such and such. And now, why is that a big deal? Because when opportunity happens, you're not going to have time to learn how to do it. You got to already know how to do it. And then you got to hook it up. Hook. You want to know what a hookup is? What's her name? Abigail, that was a hookup. Abigail was saving her city. That was a hookup. Rahab, the prostitute, that was a hookup. Let me tell you how we're going to do this. That was a hookup. So there was a different, when I say hookup, that's a woman or man that's thinking in the, David was having hookups all the time, looking at an opportunity and God giving you the skill set and then taking the initiative to step into the place. I don't know if it was Zakaiah, whatever, he was up in the tree. Then he was a little bit short. And so instead of jumping to see if he can see Jesus behind all these other regular tall people, he climbed up a tree and looked down thinking, okay, I got to get in here. Let me figure it out. And he got up there and he looked down and Jesus looked up and said, I'm coming to your house for dinner. Woo! I go from not seeing him, being able to even see him because I'm short behind all these people, to him coming to my house for dinner. I'm the man now. I'm woo. People are going to say, did Jesus come to your house? Yes, he did. And he sat right in this chair, and I'll let you sit in it for $10. Or no, wait a minute. I'll let you walk and look in the room, $2, whatever they were doing. I'm just saying. They were just saying, and he could have said, yes, he was here. And I remember and telling this story, and that's a story forever, that was, he had Jesus came to his house to eat. And everybody was pressing. And that was like a celebrity. He was a celebrity. And that was amazing. So anyway, blessings transfer. That's a blessing of behavior. You show your kids how to do business. I'm glad they didn't have no child labor laws, because when I was working with Maxine Waters, we have worked in my the kids' aunt worked at Arco. There's a big, Arco Oil. They have these big giant buildings in probably every city downtown, in every city. But this one was here in Los Angeles, and it was the top floor. And on Saturday, she had keys to everything. So all during the week, everybody was doing business. On Saturday, it was that Arco building, that Arco floor became my office. We get in there early. We was making folders. We brought our paper, and they used to have a Xerox machine at that time that was so good that it was Xerox exactly. They had to take that machine off the market, because if you had the right kind of paper, you know how you look at a dollar bill now and you see you see a transparency, glowy kind of different fabric and fibers. That is the result. So people can't copy dollar bills and cut them out and make money. But this Xerox machine, then when they first came out with it, was so accurate, it was copying money. But they had all of that up there. We weren't copying money, but I'm just remember that machine. But my kids were there. We would come in there, and we would sit down. We make marketing. We did, and that was when they just had a computer, and the computers were just like IBM's are the small little square one-piece Apple. Those were the two kinds of computers. But on Saturday, that's what they did. They played either in the bookstore, because that's where we would go hang out at the bookstore, or we would go and we would be in the office. And in the office, they would learn how to stamp. My son, to this day, he just sealing envelopes, putting stamps on, writing out, learning how to have really good penmanship so you can address envelopes. They was working. And I don't know, that child labor law, I probably would have got in trouble, because my kids were working all the time, figuring out how to do this. They learned how to do all these different kinds of things because that's what we were doing. And so, but the point is, when we got into that office building, that was my office. So it was top floor, Arco, big, giant, beautiful office. And she did the most wonderful thing for me, is what Joanne, that was her name, what Joanne would do she would be my secretary on Saturday. And she was an excellent executive secretary, but she gave me the experience of being an executive. She gave me her computer. She sat down. She said, "Let me get you some coffee." And she did that. And I remember it was amazing, because then I was like, okay, it's one thing to have a secretary. It's another thing to have an excellent executive secretary, because that excellent executive secretary makes you be an executive, because she says, no, that's my part. I'll do your scheduling. I'll do your itinerary. She did all that. She would do my whole week. She would sit there and get everything done, make calls for me, do everything. And she did everything. And she was an excellent, and she was like a person that would do above and beyond, get in early, have the coffee on your desk and everything. She did all that at a very early age, so that I was like, okay, this is how this is supposed to roll out. I'm not just a Black woman, I'm an executive. So forget the Black part. I'm going to be an executive. I could be green. And I didn't care. I never thought, I said I could do this. And she gave me that opportunity. Same thing when you're teaching your children to go to the next level and to glean wisdom and to step into it. If your children are going to be executives, you have to talk to them that way. You don't if you want your child to be a person that takes orders, then you just bark orders at them and you tell them, just shut up, do it because I said it. You're teaching your child to be a servant. But if you want to teach your child to be a business leader, you have to talk to them. You have to sit down and have meetings with them, talk to them. Not that they don't obey you because you are a parent, but you have to sit down and explain. My friend told me, she said, her daughter is a doctor. Her daughter's a doctor. Her husband's a doctor. But for her daughter to be a decision maker and to have confidence, and I'm going to tell you this, white people do not talk to their children like Black people do. Black people teach their kids how to serve. Probably brown people do too. But white people sit there and talk to their kids and let the kids have a conversation. Well, what do you think? Because your opinion is valuable. I'm not saying to go to the point of being rude, but to talk to your children. You're going to run business one day, so I need you to understand how this is going. So you talk, you don't just tell them to do it, you tell them why. Why do you tell them why? Because you're starting to help them understand decision making and understand how decisions are made, and things have to be negotiated. Things have to be discussed. Things have to be walked through. So you allow your children to speak. If you don't allow them to practice sparring at home, they're not going to learn how to spar in a boardroom. If you don't allow them to you have an opinion, let me know your opinion. And then stand on your point. Let them negotiate. How are they going to practice being a baller if you don't teach them how to do that at home? How are they going to know how to negotiate in a room? I didn't learn it from my mother. I learned it from being a stockbroker and working around white males, because they did not treat me like I was a woman or a black woman. You was one of the guys, and this is how this is rolling out. And boom, 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 boom. If men are excellent at business, they get straight to the nitty gritty. I know when we're doing business here, before I have my people take it to Mr. Bolden, I said, let me look at it first, because I don't want him to tell them the real deal, because he don't pull no punches. His stuff is like, what I might take 10 minutes, you're going to take 2 seconds, and your feelings are going to be hurt. So let me look at it first. So before you take it in there, because I want to keep all my staff. So I said, let me see. Okay, you got to have it. And I tell him, I am squishy. I will talk with you and get it done, and I will fuss at you, but I will really try to help you to get it done. And I do talk really fast, but I will help you. And he, you bet. Don't let it have no mistake on it. God help you. I look at stuff 3 or 4 times for, okay, let me check it. Oh, found a mistake. Okay, let me keep. By the time he gets it, I don't look at it 5 or 6 times or more. And so that's because he functions at a level of excellence that he has to function at that. And I'm a visionary. So everything I'm telling you is already functioning in my brain. It's already done. I'm trying to come back to today and tell you guys what's taking so long. Let's move it forward. But I see it already done. And so for children, you have to look at your kids. This is legacy, wisdom. You have to look at your kids. They were already formed. You know your children. You have 5 kids. You did not make cookies. They are each individually and wonderfully made, and you know they're each different. And you have to look at them that way. When they come into the world, it's not your child. It's your child God put you and trusted you with them. But that child has a destiny in the earth realm, and your job as a parent is to help cultivate whatever that gift is. Education is a must. I don't care if you don't want to, like Jesus. Imagine Jesus and Joseph sitting there, and Jesus is telling his father, I'm the Son of God, and I've got a call in my life, and I'm going to do these things, and I'm going to be about my Father's business. I'm just putting words. And Joseph was going, yeah, great, but you're still going to learn how to be a carpenter. Jesus learned a trade, and all the magnificent, look at that, and all the magnificent stuff that Jesus was going to do. He had a backup plan. He was a carpenter. He knew how to do whatever carpentry was at that day. I don't know what it was, but he was a carpenter. And so in the midst of that, Joseph, that was his legacy. He showed him how to be a carpenter, and he knew how to do that. So if Jesus had more than one trade, and if Jesus had more than one trade, being the Son of God, he had more than one trade, then you have to have more than one trade, and you have to have your people to know to have more than one trade. So I said all that to say wisdom, how to get gain and keep it, how to buy and sell, how to negotiate. It's an intelligence. It is a thing you have to learn how to do. And you've got to, whoever is managing the coins is running the show. Whoever is in charge of the money is running the show. And when I say in charge of money, I don't mean being a Judas kind of banker. I mean whoever has the money to lend, whoever is banking, whoever is in charge of that, at the end of the day, they are running the show. So that's like if we're brokering water, whoever's in charge of the water. If we're pumping oil, whoever owns the land that the oil's being pumped out of. Whoever owns the source. When Starbucks, we got to read this in a second. When Starbucks started really getting good at coffee, they went and bought coffee plantations. So Starbucks is not buying their coffee from Costco. Starbucks owns from the beginning all the way to the end, the entire merchant process. Starbucks went and bought it. Because now instead of getting coffee pretty cheap, because coffee takes pennies to make, and they sell it for $1.50 or $2 for plain coffee, That's the best gig ever. Plain coffee. People got to get it every single day. Lines out the door, and it costs pennies to make. The cup costs more than the coffee. To print the cup costs more than the coffee, and then we paying every single day, paying $1 or $2. Excuse me, there's no $1 coffee, $2. Don't add no mocha and macchiato and some other stuff in there, and like learning how to speak coffee, and then you have that costs pennies. So maybe it costs 25 cents at the syrup and the this and the that. Your macchiato drink, and you pay $4 for it. Don't tell me that isn't brilliant. But there wasn't enough. Starbucks went and bought the coffee plantations. They got them all over. They have specialized coffee, and then they do something to the coffee beans to make them more addictive and stronger. You know how strong Starbucks coffee is. They make that. So where you stand right now, business, you have to be industrious. If you don't want your children to wind up back in poverty, you have to learn something. You cannot be a worker bee. You have got to be an entrepreneur. You have got wisdom. Wealth is a part of wisdom, and God taught the Jewish people, and they continue to go. They are industry driven. They are in that is part of the Abraham blessing. It's not just going to temple. It's that we run the entire industry of entertainment. We run the entire industry. We founded Facebook. We founded Microsoft. We founded all these other major. This is God. God is a wealthy person, individual. He's not. He's an entity. He said, a cattle on 1,000 hills. He owns it. He wants to be able to tell you to do something, and you write a check instead of go have chicken dinners. He's not trying to make chicken dinner. This is not chicken dinner problems. These problems require big capital, and somebody has to go in there and negotiate it. God is a power broker. He's a baller. I hope you do that. He's not a small. He's not little bitty. He's not little bitty. He thinks big. That's so ridiculous for me to say that God thinks big, but he does. He thinks globally. He thinks like that. He doesn't think he can help you with your bank account, but he would really like to blow your bank account up and put you at the front of something and set you there, and then you start telling him, because he wants to be he's not worried about you being in the boardroom. You got to get all this so you can get in the boardroom. But when you get into those positions, guess what's going to happen? God wants to talk. He wants to run these conversations. He wants to be up in there problem solving. He wants to be in Congress. He wants to be in the Senate so he can say something, because we're at war. We're not wrestling against flesh and blood. He wants to get in there. In order for him to get in there, you have to get in there, and your kids have to get in there. You have to be a power broker to make something happen. It's humble. You can be humble all day because you know you're not doing it. But the point is, you got to get into the meeting. You got to get invited. That is why you do all this stuff. That's why you're getting pushed up into these situations, so you can go in and make something happen. You're not doing it. He's going to do it through you. So what am I saying that to say? When you're talking to your children, you are talking to the next, for real, the next president of such and such a company, the next this, the next that. You talk to your kids like you invest something in them. They have extreme value, and you don't give up. One of the things how we do different. We Black people like to write your children off. Oh, you ain't worth nothing. You are worth everything, because it took 9 months to make you, and then I was thinking about you before you got here, and then before you were even conceived, and then now you have the legacy of our family on you. And it is important. You have to make it. Here's the mantle. You have to finish the race, son. You have to finish the race, daughter. You have to make it happen. We came from an ancestry of such and such. This is what it costs. You can read. This is what it costs you to be able to read. You can walk freely amongst the street, not by have somebody grab you and lynch you. This is what that costs. And in the Hispanic this is what our ancestors had to do to get over here. This is what it costs for us to push you over the fence to be successful. So it's not free. Somebody paid for you to get here. You're on the shoulders of great people. You come from a line of great people. I talked to a girl on Friday, I think it was Friday, and she's running an indigenous school in East LA. She is off the charts. She is talking about and she was talking about our black and brown and yellow and people of color, and I'm not leaving white people out. I love you dearly, because I wouldn't be who I am today without you. But what I'm saying is that when she was talking about our men of color are not being recognized, she was talking about legacy building, and she was talking about a school where they're not learning how to speak Spanish anymore. They've almost forgotten how to speak Spanish. You don't want to lose where you came from when you're going into where you're going. You got to do both. Dig up the old wells and keep your legacy. It is important to know what happened so that you know how to not go back into it. But it's taught. It's taught. Jewish, they have Saturday schools. Jewish, they go to school to learn how to be Hebrew. They don't just pop out. They learn who Abraham was, who Moses was, who David was. They learn the word of God. They know the 10 Commandments, but they also know what this legacy thing is. And it's you are what you are. That is an inheritance. In America, you have the privilege of now being able to pull and glean the best inheritance from all cultures. I can learn something from my Korean brothers and sisters. I can learn something from my Indian brothers and sisters. I mean Indian. And then I can learn something from my Native American brothers and sisters, from my Hispanic, my Latina brothers and sisters. I can learn something from obviously the Jewish brothers and sisters and the straight white brothers and sisters all day long, because everybody has helped get me where I am, and you the same thing. Don't block yourself in a corner. You need to have your children, the friends of your children should be every color. Now some of you are working with your grandchildren. They should have some white friends, some black friends, some brown. I had two, and I'm just giving you an example. I went to a multiracial school. It was Chinese, Mexican, black, and white. Really, literally. My best friends were Lulu and Rose Lamb. There was elementary school, and we never even thought about color. We never even had a concept of it. And what happened was culture. The cultures blended early. Your child should be able to speak all those different languages. You are in the richest country in the world. Your children can become millionaires, and I lie not. I tell you the truth. They can. Opportunities are happening all the time. The key is education, and you, as the parent, as the grandparent, have to push them. You're not going to be able to hold the blessing God is giving you right now if you don't teach them how to hold on to it. Study, show yourself approved. I got to understand this, and you got to get it. You got to get it. He who listens best. And let me just tell you this last thing. We might have to do these scriptures tomorrow. Let me tell you this last thing. Tables turn. Write that down. Tables turn. Every single time, in every situation, tables turn. First, you're on the bottom. Give it some time. You keep doing the right thing, keep moving and function, and how God's function, you'll be on top. So you started at the bottom. You might have started. It's so many stories where people have started in the servant spot and wound up owning the business. Many stories like that. In the South, is many stories that we don't talk about, where the slaves were freed, or the slaves inherited part of the land. When the person died, they gave them the land, and they just had to maintain it. And the reason it was given to them because they were responsible to maintain it. So the cultures have been interwoven by necessity and by just by what it was. So you have to. What is your inheritance? What is your history? What is it that God gave you to do? What were the gifts of your grandmother? Mother Arthurine talked about that on Saturday. What were the gifts of your grandmother? Because gifts transfer. So your children have the ability to inherit all from the great-great-grandmothers up until now, all the way into the future. What is your inheritance? Have you, again, another point, have you taken the time to write down the legacy of your family? Have you talked to your grandmother? Have you talked to some of your great-grandmothers are not here anymore, but did you get the stories? I remember the stories. Did you get the stories? Did you write them down? Did you record them? And the legacy, that's another gleaming, the legacy of your family. And we've heard different ones on the phone. You've heard Lori talk about her dad. You've heard different ones. You've heard Mother Arthurine talk about her mother and her grandmother, and different ones about Jackie's mom. You heard there's legacy. That's not just a person. That's the entire history inside of a body of the generations that came to make you who you are. And you've got to tell the story. So when a child says, Who are you? I am. There's a song called "I'm Rosemary's Granddaughter." It's something for a child to say, "I am such and such, great grandchild of such and such, grandchild of such and such, son of such and such, daughter of such and such. I am this, da 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 da, and I will do blah blah blah." That's called legacy. You got to know where you came from, and then you got to know where you're going to go. But you send them. You send them. It is very important. Legacy. People. Every legacy is not of money. Sometimes I was praying about you before you got here. I was praying about you. I just like I said, and then I'm gonna finish. When I was speaking at this event, and I was sitting in the front, and they were behind me, the women that were coming in, and I was sitting in front, focused on what I was getting ready to have to talk about, and they were coming in. That's the first time that happened, because if I had been looking at them come in, I'm going to talk about Juanita Bynum too. So we'll be ending right at the end. But if I was looking at them, my visual strength, my visual instinct would have kicked in and overrode what I was seeing. Sometimes closing your eyes is important, because you got to hear in the spirit realm. And sometimes if you see it, the thing you see overwhelms what you know in your spirit. But my back was to them, so I had no way of knowing. But I heard the doors open up. This room, 200-300 women, easy. I can't remember. It went all the way to the conference area, went all the way to the back. And I was sitting there, and the women came in, but I could hear and feel an ancestry. I could feel grandmothers coming in the room. I could feel people of ancient. I felt people come. They didn't come in by themselves. And people can say they're this and that. I don't know the dynamics of when you get to the other side. I just know what I had that experience. And they walked in, and for every one child that went, 20-year-olds is a child as far as I'm concerned. 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds walked in. There was they had people came in with them. They didn't walk by themselves. The legacy of their lineage was with them. And I could feel that. I've never felt that before. And these babies were coming in, but they weren't just. It wasn't just like, it's not just Ruby, it's not just May, it's not just Jackie, it's not just Lori. It's the heritage of who brought you to become who you are. Somebody made you. God made them. They made you. God he was working with you when you were in the womb, but somebody took the care of making you who you are. And this, let me tell you, the value that I'm explaining to who you are, and the value of which you have a right to pass on to your children. See how valuable that is. Now, walk out and see, when you see a homeless person or somebody balled up on the side of a building with a blanket, they have the same value. They have lost their way. That is somebody's baby. Do you understand? For them to get grown, somebody kept them alive. That is somebody's child. And that's when you look at them that way, this is somebody's child. This is some person. This baby belongs to somebody. They belong to God, but they also belong to somebody. And you have to realize the value of human life. And this is wisdom. Realizing that makes you very wise. Realizing the value of a single individual makes you very wise, because you slow down. Jesus didn't heal. He healed individuals. He talked to them. He got to know who they were. He listened, and he did individual miracles for the individual people, because he connected to them and wanted to know who they were and how they came to be who they are. And I think I can do this. I'm gonna do the closing prayer, because we run out of time. And tomorrow, keep your scriptures. Juanita Bynum said, so she learned all that entrepreneurial stuff, but it fed into the next thing. So when her father taught them to operate in excellence. So when they told her she could have a booth, a table at T.D. Jakes' event, she said she went and looked at what the top booths looked like, and she went and bought that. It cost her thousands of dollars. It had lights and everything. She got her picture blown up, the banner and the whole thing. And then she bought 100,000 copies of her book to sell at the thing. And then she had her friends over, and she had it all set up in the garage. And she said this the other day, Saturday, and I was so excited to hear her tell the story again. And so she said when she went to get them some water, and when she came back, she said they was talking about her. She ain't got the 500 people. She went and bought all these books. She don't need all this stuff. She says, see, that's when you get behind her. So this is our friend. These are her friends, small-minded little pickaninny friends talking to her crazy about her. And she took all that stuff and went to the TD Jakes event. And she said it was 500, which is a big amount of people. It was 500 people. She said she preached down heaven. She preached like she was preaching to the whole world. She preached like she had this was the last sermon. She laid it out. She went in and she did that thing. And she did her best. She functioned with excellence at every little small step. And then the Lord talked to TD Jakes and said, the Lord said, and she went home. This part I didn't know. When she went to lunch, she said the tongues kept coming up. So her mother said, you probably need to go home. So she went to the hotel room and laid down, because sometimes when you finish preaching or the anointing is on, you can't stop speaking in tongues. You can't speak English. And so that's why she said the tongues kept coming up. So she went and she said she got a phone call, and it was the admin office for Bishop TD Jakes. And he said, the Lord told him that you have a word. Thank God for a man listening to God. The Lord told him that you have a word. And she said, woo. She said she wants you to speak. She said, speak where? Speak in the evening, Saturday evening, which was a big event. 30,000 plus people was at that event. And she said that she sold out of the books. She had to take orders for future orders for the book. And she said that in the Lord, to see how God opened up a door, because she was prepared. She was prepared beyond what everybody was looking at. She was ready. So when the opportunity came, she stepped right into it. She had all her ducks in a row, and it was all set up. And I thank God. I was like, that. Yes, that's how it goes. You don't have to look at don't think small. God's got you. He's going to lift you up in the presence of, and you don't even know how that thing's going to roll out.
Hi, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the message. Now, don't forget to like us, subscribe, share, and comment. And most importantly, you come back soon.